So you get married and live happily ever after, right? Well, unfortunately, statistically, that's just not likely to happen. About 40 to 50% of all marriages end in divorce, plus in LA, about 75% of marriages end in divorce. But today, relationship coach Carol Allen is here. She's going to tell you how to find happiness in marriage or any relationship. Pleasure to have you here today, Carol.
Hi, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Pleasure, again, to have you. But I hate to say this, but you know, I guess I've become a bit of a cynic because when I hear these days that someone is getting married, I almost naturally start to think, but how long will it be until they get divorced?
Really? Oh,
I shouldn't say that, should I? But
no.
you feel like the clock is ticking these days.
Right.
So, and in LA, 75% of marriages end in divorce.
Southern California, yes.
Southern
Very
California,
high.
okay.
Very high.
So why is it worse here?
Well, I think there's a lot of pressure here. It's very expensive here. The number two reasons that people break up, 1 and 2, are finances and parenting, differences in parenting styles. And, you know, children are enormously expensive. So those two issues are very intertwined. I think there's a lot of pressure to look great here, to go for the big goal, the big dream. So we're very career oriented here. And there's just a lot of pressure here. A lot of temptation, a lot of pretty people.
Wow. Well, and that's where you come in. You're out there trying to keep people together. And I know, well, you actually have an interesting background because you're...
Right, it's very different.
As an astrologer,
Yes.
you've worked with thousands of people.
Yes.
And you said that two topics that kept coming up, though, over and over again were love and money.
Yes. Constantly, and love more than anything. I started 15 years ago as a Vedic astrologer, which is the system of astrology of India, and everybody that came into my door wanted to know, where is he, when, what am I doing wrong, you know, or they would bring the chart of another person and want to know the compatibility. And
so that led you into officially coaching people.
Right, because obviously I became a resource for people, and I thought, well, I better know what I'm talking about. And so often the thing that ended up helping people far more than the analysis of the charts was just basic relationship advice or skills or tools. You know, we don't learn this stuff in school, and we don't have good role models, and we turn on TV and there's, you know, the wife on King of Queens yelling at the husband, or there's, you know, everybody loves Ray except for his wife. You know?
TV is probably not the right these days, you know, maybe back in the 50s or something.
Right.
But you know,
his father knows best and all those
Survivor
shows.
is not the way to run your marriage, you know.
Right. Exactly. So I, you know, started reading all about it. I got a lot of training with a relationship institute that was really great, and just started giving workshops, and just found over and over just the smallest things would make such a difference for people. And it's just been really rewarding, really exciting. And I've come to feel that half of those divorces are a waste and a shame and very preventable with just a little tweaking.
But the other half are a good idea.
Well, a lot of people shouldn't get married in the first place. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of people rush into it. I see that a lot. And a lot of people deny what they know. Everyone I know that's divorced or who's come to me that's divorced, I'll say, what did you think on your wedding day? And they always knew that it wasn't
and I think you bring up about 10 good points there. But number one, you say, I thought it was very interesting, you say that people should not get married without knowing the other person for at least a year.
Yes. Absolutely. Because chemically, when you first meet someone, all those, you know, biological forces that say get together kick in. And so the brain literally secretes dopamine, which is a form of heroin. I mean, it's an opiate, right? So when you're with this person, you literally cannot see their negative qualities. Their negative behaviors, negative attitudes, etc., are diminished, and their positive are enhanced because you're high on dopamine. So throw in, you know, the chemistry between two people, and how people literally are like enchanted with each other.
But you also mentioned too, though, the other person, you know, in the beginning when people first meet, they're on their best behavior.
Absolutely.
And then what happens is after like 6 months to a year.
4 to 6 months is a big transition
Then you start
phase.
seeing, like if you met was it Mr. Hyde? Then you meet Dr. Jekyll, whichever the, you know.
Whichever the bad guy is.
Yeah, whichever the bad guy is. Yeah, I forget.
Right.
I got it reversed.
I don't remember either.
But so you tend to see their, I don't say their real self.
Right. They take off the social mask, the persona. They get comfortable. They start being who they really are. And that might be a good thing, and it might not be a good thing. But if you married them before, you know, that year period, the other thing is
one day you wake up and think, who the hell are you?
What am I doing? How did this happen?
Who did I marry?
Exactly.
Right.
And then a lot of people have seasonal depression. So that happy person in June is now grumpy, has no sex drive, is totally high maintenance and overly sensitive in February. And you're stuck with that person from like, November to May. So you don't know that until you've seen them through.
Right, and I think
cycles.
another good point that you bring up is that you say, what were they thinking?
Right.
So I think in a way there's sort of, well, two things. The basic compatibility that people don't really think about, that's really going to drive me crazy after 6 months of, whatever.
Well, they actually say the thing you're initially attracted to is the thing you later leave the person over. So if they're spontaneous and exciting, well, that's fun in the beginning.
Yeah, and then one day you're saying, oh, you're just too damn...
Well, yeah, I can't plan anything. You don't keep agreements. You're always off to the next adventure, So often the thing we like initially is the thing we end up leaving them over. But you mentioned a good point, compatibility. Well, I quote a study a lot. It's the most rigorous empirical marriage study ever done. It's out of Seattle. It's called the Gottman Institute, and they've done a 30-year marriage study. Wow. And they have found, and this is great, that every couple, no matter who they are, has 10 to 12 irreconcilable differences. Every couple.
Oh, I believe it.
So when people come to me and they're giving me the list of like all the problems, I'm like, hey, no problem. You would have 10 to 12 with
You're
anybody.
missing a few. You only have 8? What do you mean?
Yeah,
you should
really.
find 4 more,
You're doing well, exactly. But so often people think, well, this means I should leave. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe it means you need to work with it differently or manage it differently.
To look in the wider context and realize other people have those same issues. And
absolutely.
That sort of thing.
And you're going to have them with no matter who you're with.
That's a good
so
point.
Other studies show people with the highest expectations have the highest divorce rate because they expect to have this perfect, blissful relationship where the person never lets them down, never disappoints them, and you're setting yourself up to fail.
But don't you think too, though, I think one of the fatal flaws or mistakes that most people make is they think the other person will change or they can change them.
Absolutely.
And I think you ain't going to change anything.
That's
it's just going to become more magnified probably over time,
Right. That's the classic mistake women make, I will say, is they
well, you said it there. I was trying to be gender neutral,
no,
but
it's more of a woman thing, I hate to tell you. I think the mistake...
She thinks she'll change the guy, and the guy's not going to change.
And I think the mistake that men make is they think the woman I've married is going to stay this way and not change, okay? Because women are constantly changing. I mean, we're always changing our hair, our outfit, our wardrobe, our friends, Women tend to change more than men do. And I try to avoid those sweeping generalizations because, there's all kinds of people in the world, all kinds of men and women. It tends to be that way. And so what happens when a woman tries to change a man or vice versa, what do you want to do when somebody's basically saying, I don't like you the way you are, you're not right this way, here's what you need to do for me, okay? You're going to get only resistance.
I can imagine the reaction, yeah.
You're only going to get resistance, and next thing you know, you're just in an ego battle and in a power struggle, and then everybody's just mad. And that's usually when they call me, is when, literally, they usually call me when somebody's moved out, a lawyer has been called, things are boxed up on the lawn or in the garage,
Yeah.
And then I point out, hello, you've been trying to change this person, or you've been telling them what to do. That's the other big no-no, is telling each other what to do, or managing each other. Well, did you call so-and-so? Did you do this? Did you da-da-da-da-da?
No.
People think, well, I'm just being helpful. Well, no, you're telling your partner what to do like they're 5 or something. They already have a mother. They don't need a mother or a father. They're with you to be like their best friend. Why don't you try that?
And I think, but a lot of that plays into the fact that I believe, though, that your newlyweds are more likely to, in other words, the shorter the marriage is lasted, the more likely you are to get divorced. Although, you know what I mean? Like
the
in the
first
early
3 years are the hardest, and nobody tells us this. So we're all thinking like, oh, this is the happy time. This is the starry-eyed, romantic, like everything's great phase. No, the first 3 years are hell because you've been your own person all this time, and suddenly somebody else has veto power over your whole life, over all your choices, over the the wallpaper you choose. That's really hard for people. And you had this great courtship and all this fun dating, and you went to fabulous places, but suddenly somebody's socks are on the bedroom floor.
It gets really annoying when you see those socks there every morning, no matter how many times you tell him, right?
Right.
Because I think that's more of a woman thing. Here I am generalizing, but I shouldn't do that. But yeah, I hear that a lot. Or like
Men
they'll say,
are messier.
or they
I think
right,
we can say that.
I have to admit, I am messier, by the way.
It's pretty across the board that way. Not always, but pretty across the board. But yeah, there's Richard Jennings, the comedian. He says, Dating, you're lonely. You know, when you're single, you're lonely, but when you're married, you're just annoyed. So pick your poison. Do you want to be lonely or annoyed? You know.
Well, we will be right back with relationship coach Carol Allen, and we will find out the 4 worst behaviors that precede a breakup. We'll be right back. We are back with relationship coach Carol Allen today, telling you the 4 worst behaviors that precede a breakup. So lay it on me, Carol. What are they?
Well, this is from that Gottman study that I mentioned, the longest, most scientific marriage study ever done. And they've gotten to the point where they can predict with 91% accuracy whether or not a couple will stay together 4 years out by watching them to see how they interact in having difficult conversations. And
you know, I've gotten to the point where I'm in a room with a married couple and I'm thinking, how the hell are these two still together?
Oh, no. Well,
I think I can predict with about 90%.
You can feel it. You can feel tension between people. It's pretty easy sometimes, unfortunately. But the 4 worst things we can do in any of our relationships with anybody are, number 1, be critical. Criticism's really, really painful, and it's when you make sort of a global character attack, or you bring out past evidence to support why this person's such a bad person, as opposed to just...
So you keep bringing it up over and over again.
As opposed to just lodging a complaint, you know? Lodging a complaint is valid, but criticizing is not.
Well, and do you want to tell more about that? Because obviously in a relationship, people are, whatever relationship, I mean, even in a business relationship, people will disagree.
Right.
So how do you disagree constructively versus criticizing?
Well, disagreeing is saying, wow, you know, I see it differently, or I have a different point of view that I'd love to share, if you're open to it. But criticizing is, what are you, an idiot? That's the dumbest idea I ever heard. You know, you're always flaky like that. And last time you didn't follow through with blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's attacking.
You know what I think one of the worst ones is? When they start thinking about your side of the family. Like, oh, you left your side of your socks on the floor, and oh, or I've heard this before, like, oh, you know, or they'll say that to the kids too, like your mother's side of the family or the father's side of the family.
Oh,
you know, that side of the thing.
Like
or
your DNA
family
is defective.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do about that. Sorry, your DNA is defective.
Yeah, if you start criticizing the family, I always feel like, you know, then you know that
that's
something is...
true. Well, and that's a big mistake divorced people do, is, you know, you're just like your father. Your father was always that way. La, 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 la. Well, great. You just told your kid that their DNA is totally defective, and there's nothing they can do about that, you know? It's very damaging. So that's kind of the difference. And then the next one is contempt. Contempt is the worst thing you can do with anybody.
Sounds pretty bad.
Well, it takes several forms. It can be belligerence, which is like, so I was late, so sue me, you know. It can be condescension, when you're, well, you know, you were late again, and you just can't seem to help that, now can you? Okay, that's totally rude. It's like talking down to somebody. It can be sneering, eye-rolling. One of the big cues in this study to them that a couple's in big trouble is if somebody's talking, the other person's going, oh.
Yeah,
you know, or like, woo, cuckoo.
Yeah.
When people make faces behind each other's backs, this is passive aggressive, and this is very hostile, and it's contemptuous. So
I think that's the definition of passive aggressive.
yeah, it's really bad. The third of the 4 is, oh, this was my personal favorite. I was really good at this one, is being defensive. Being defensive, because it feels like we're just stating our case. We're just telling our side. We're just explaining ourselves. But what you're really doing is you're making the other person wrong. You're bringing out all kinds of evidence to support why the other person's wrong and you're right. And it never gets you anywhere. The other person can't hear you.
So that would be like what? I mean, not just more than making excuses. It's more...
It's when you shoot down everything they say. I'll give you a cute story. I had a client say to me, yeah, you know, my husband was telling me yesterday that I'm really defensive and that he doesn't like the way I communicate because I'm so defensive. And I said, well, what did you say to him? And she said, well, I said to him, do you hear the way you just said that? Do you hear the way you're talking to me right now? She defended his, you know, assertion that she's defensive. She was defensive in the face of him calling her defensive. It was exactly what he was talking about. So
how often do you see that when people come in and they're actually kind of what the other party says they are?
All the time. And what we need to do in all of these cases is talk to the higher truth, the bigger truth, which is if somebody says to you, you know, it's so hard to deal with you, you're so defensive, then talk from why, which is, well, you know, it hurts my heart when you come at me all upset, and I often don't feel safe in our communication, so I become defensive to protect myself. Like, talk about what's really going on. So that's one of the main things I teach people is always stop and check in with yourself and ask yourself, what is really going on? Because when we're just reactive with someone we love, then it just becomes a power struggle, and it's just a fight, and it's just a war, and there's no connection. But when someone comes at you with something, and then you talk from a higher place or a vulnerable place, you immediately disarm them. You immediately remind them why you're connected, and suddenly everybody's heart opens. And that's how you stay happily married or happily friends or whatever.
You know, there was also something in kind of maybe a poetic sort of way or spiritual sort of way, I think, even if you maybe don't believe in the religious aspect of it. But I think you said that more from your Eastern religion background.
Right.
That I think I'm probably slaughtering this, and you can correct me, but the idea is that sort of like each person has a little bit of God in them or something.
Well,
and so that you should,
right.
So you were speaking to the other person, you're like speaking to a representative of God or like somebody, or one of God's children or whatever.
Yeah.
And you should treat them with respect or talk to them that way.
Well, I
and
think
if you actually,
even if you're not religious, most people believe in God. If you ask the average Joe on the street, most people believe in God. And most people believe to a certain extent in fate or destiny or some higher plan for them. And if you're with someone maybe and you're married and you took vows, perhaps this was like the person you were supposed to be, put with, and maybe they're in your life for a reason. And if they're making you so crazy, maybe there's like something you can learn from or grow from. Maybe there's a higher plan to the reason they're making. Maybe
instead
they're
of
like
just getting how low can you go.
Right,
well, and don't you
absolutely.
Think, well, and again, as I say, I think there's so many different things going on here, but I think one problem I think is that in America in general, we kind of have, and I blame TV, partly talk shows, reality TV, but TV in general.
Talk shows?
Yes, I know, talk shows are some of the worst. Because the idea that we have in America is kind of how low can you go?
Right.
It's say anything, do anything.
We're impolite.
Yeah, especially on TV. But you know what I mean? It's tell the person what you really think, confront them. And the problem is if you run your marriage that way, how low can you go? Well,
right.
That's a divorce.
Well, and truthfully, we all think, oh, but you have to communicate. Yes, you have to communicate respectfully, and you have to communicate politely. And the more familiar people are.
And just expound on that a little bit, you say it's not, as the classic saying is, it's not what you say, but how you say it.
And you know that old saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say it at all? Well, it's not that. It's just, if you can't say something nice, say it nicely.
Yes. And what I would say is too, at the office, you would not talk to your boss that way.
No.
Because you get fired immediately.
Right.
You wouldn't talk to a customer that way, or at least you should. I mean, be very unprofessional.
Lose their business.
Right. But you think you can go home and say anything to your spouse because you're at home.
But that's how you get fired by your spouse.
Yeah, and that's called a divorce.
How you lose their business.
Right, yeah. They can take millions of dollars, they could take half, it could be even more.
They can devastate your children forever.
Lose your family, all that stuff. But people think at home you can say, at work, you can't talk that way, but at home you can say anything.
Right. I just want to be me. I just want to be the real me. Well, is the real you immature and passive aggressive and aggressive? I mean, come on, be the grown-up you.
And boy, this is fun, kind of tearing this all apart, isn't it? But I think too, but part of it is just a lack of respect toward the other person.
Yes, absolutely.
I think if you feel that you should treat people with some basic respect, then that would carry over a lot into the marriage. I mean, in other words, if you just don't talk to people that way.
Right.
Unless it's like a life and death struggle or something, But I mean.
Well, it demands that we come from our higher place, that we come from our bigger self. And to be successful, truthfully, all relationships are friendships. All marriages are friendships. And that same Gottman study, I love it because they say 70% of couples divorced that they've surveyed, 70% of the men say the friendship died, and 70% of the women say the friendship died. Be each other's friend, And so sometimes we have to get past the labels of, well, this is what a husband should do, or this is what a wife should do, or this is what a fiance should do. No, this person's your friend, and if they need something, why isn't that good enough for you? Think about what they need and be on their side.
And for the people at home who think that's funny or cute and would never do it and think, well, isn't that nice? That's just something to say on TV.
Or isn't it simple?
Yeah.
Like, duh, we all know that, but people don't do it.
Yeah, but you're not going to do it, and that's why you're going to get a divorce, So, I mean, that's the consequence.
I see a lot of people just being fair weather partners, As soon as somebody's like not as nice, not as affectionate, not as romantic, not giving them the presents or whatever, they're pissed. They're telling all their friends what a jerk their partner is, and they're ready to walk. And they call me like wanting me to get on the aren't they a jerk train. And I hear the story and I say, well, you know, don't they have any goodwill built up? Aren't you available and supportive and
how often do you just say, yeah, they are a jerk?
This person? Well, if they're being a big jerk, I'll say, wow, they're being a big jerk, but why? What's the greater truth? Are they feeling unappreciated by you? Are they having depression in their own life? One of my favorite sayings is, depression causes divorce as often as divorce causes depression. The first thing to go with depression is your ability to feel pleasure. The second thing to go is your libido. So when you're with somebody who goes through a depression, they're not going to have fun with you, and they're not going to want to sleep with you. And guess what? You've got to have like a strong sense of self and faith in the relationship to think, you know, bigger than, why is he rejecting me or she rejecting me? Why are they, la, la, la. You got to go, whoa, what's wrong with this person? I love this person. Maybe they're in crisis. And maybe it has nothing to do with the relationship. Maybe it's the work. Maybe there's a health problem. When I get the calls where people say, suddenly my partner doesn't want to sleep with me, or suddenly my partner, you know, is depressed all the time, the first thing I say is go and have them get a physical, eliminate the potential that possibly there's a health thing happening here.
Well, we'll pick up on that in just a minute. We'll be right back with relationship coach Carol Allen right after this, telling you how to save your marriage, save your relationship. We are back with relationship coach Carol Allen today. And you know, before the break, you said to send them to the doctor for a physical.
Yes.
But I was thinking, how often though do they want to send them to a psychiatrist for a
and
different kind of exam?
That brings up a great point. People come to me all the time wanting to drag their partner to therapy or drag them to a doctor or a workshop or something. And what I love to tell people is they don't have to do anything. Only one person needs to change their part of the dance, and the dance will change. So if someone's with a partner who's unwilling to get help, if they just work on the relationship or work on themselves and change how they're responding and start bringing more goodwill and more good vibration, so to speak, to the partnership, it's amazing how quickly the other person will follow their lead.
They pick up and respond to that.
Absolutely, because whatever we're coming from, if we're coming from ego, our partner will come from ego. If we're coming from anger, our partner will come from anger. If we're coming from wanting what's best for the both of us, our partner will too. And I've seen couples locked in like power struggles for over a decade, over 20 years, so much rancor, so much resentment. One person changes, and within a few weeks, the other one follows happily. So it's not hard. It's not hard.
And I like the fact that I read in one of your papers, you said a lot of times, let's say if it's the woman, maybe if she wants to go and the guy won't, I guess. I don't know if that's a typical situation or not.
It's very typical.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
And so the woman might say then, well, you know, why should I do this if he's not going to? But what's your response to that?
Well, I get the why should I, and aren't I just being a doormat, and why am I the one doing everything? And what I say is, guess what? You don't have to. You get to. You get to turn this around. Thank God you don't have to wait for the other person. This is good news. This is not bad news.
And I think the other thing you said too was, do you like the guy?
Right. Look, you married this person, you have kids with them, you have a home with them, like maybe, hey, we can find the guy that you married again. Maybe we can bring that guy back. So
if the answer is no, then you probably should end it. But if it's yes, then it's worth putting the
investment. Well, what I love to say is, were you just a big idiot? Did you just marry a big loser? Were you just an idiot? Like,
how
what
often
was
do
your
they say
problem?
yes? That's what I want.
They never do, and then I've got them.
Because they can't say they're an idiot. They'll say the other one's a big loser, but they won't say they're an idiot, right?
So, right. But then I've got them.
He fooled me. I didn't know.
Right.
That was, you know.
So my biggest advice to people is, whatever you want more of, bring it. You want more fun, be more fun. You want more romance, be more romantic. You want more support, be more supportive. Lead the way. Quit waiting for the other person. Lead the way and they'll follow your lead. I've seen it time and time and time again, and it's so easy.
What percentage of marriages do you think, or at least with the people you've worked with, well, I suppose you're working with people who have problems, but what percentage of marriages do you think really are, let's say, happy or working well?
You know, unfortunately, most of the studies focus on the problems, and most of the studies focus on what isn't working. But I know plenty of happily married people. I've been in 9 weddings, and 8 of them are still together. Oh. And you know, I'm super happily married. My husband's very happily married. There's a lot of happy people out there, and thankfully today we live in a culture where there's media providing this kind of forum, and there's Dr. Phil, and there's Oprah, and there's a million books, and if you want help, it's everywhere. So people just need to make the effort and make it the priority.
And do you think, I'm wondering, because a high percentage of people, I believe, who get divorced get remarried.
Yes.
Do people learn, or do they keep doing the same thing
We
over and
know
over
that
again?
second marriages have a higher divorce rate than first. Because there's more baggage. You're bringing kids often. You've got, you're still paying off the last spouse often. You're more wounded, disappointed, damaged. Maybe you have less energy for it because it didn't work last time. So second marriages have a higher divorce rate than first.
Wow.
But
And
the
I guess,
hope
and
is
so
that
does
you
that
learned
first
something.
marriage frame your second marriage then? in
No,
effect?
not necessarily. Not necessarily. But a lot of people do the reactionary thing, like whatever the last partner didn't have, the next one will. So if the last one didn't have money, the next one will. If the last one.
Well, this is relationship coach Carol Allen today, telling you how to save your marriage, save your relationship. Thank you very much for being here today, Carol.
This was fun.
Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.